So once you've got your sketch completed and you're ready to take your SolidWorks sketch over to the laser, there's a couple things that you need to double check. First of all, any lines that are present, the laser is going to be cutting all the way through those. So this construction line I have down the middle here because I made this part using a mirror. I actually want to get rid of that in my sketch because I don't want the laser to be cutting through that. But the rest of these lines I do want it to cut on because I'm just cutting this silhouette out. There's no funky holes in the middle or anything. So that's good. I can exit my sketch. And the next step is a file conversion. So right now you're in your solid part file extension, and for the laser to be able to read it, we need to convert it to a DXF file. So you're going to click the File button up towards the top left of your screen. Depending on which computer you're on, the location of this button can change a little bit, but it's always going to be somewhere near the top left if you can find it. So click that, and then from the drop down you want to select Save As. You can change this name to something that you're going to recognize, it doesn't really matter. But this Save As type, this is what we're worried about. So right now, like I said, it's a SolidWorks part, or solid part is the file extension on there. We want to click that and change it to a DXF, so it should be alphabetical-ish, and if you can just find DXF, you can click on that, and then you can click Save. Then you can see over on the left-hand side, I got this DXF DWG output box showing up in my Properties Manager. This should be okay with all of the default settings as long as your sketch is facing you straight on like you want it to be cut. So everything looks good to me. I'm going to click the check mark, and it should bring up this little preview box here. Anything that's in one of these white lines is going to be cut out. That looks exactly like I want it to. If there's a line that you don't want cut out that you forgot to remove, you can use this Remove Entities tool. Otherwise, you should be good to just hit Save. Corel Draw is going to be this little pencil pen looking green, black, and white icon down on the taskbar. If it doesn't show up there, it's also right here on the desktop, and if you can't find it in either one of those places, you can use the Windows button and start searching Corel Draw, and it should pop up. But I'm just going to open that and let it load up. And once you get to this home screen, you're going to want to select New Document, which is the big plus button right here. Now it's going to ask you a couple questions. I suggest naming this something very short, considering when we send it to the laser, the screen on there can only show so many letters. I'm cutting out the silhouette of an F-35, so I'm just going to title it F-35, short and sweet. The rest of these presets should be fine except for width and height. These need to be changed to the approximate width and height of the actual feature that you're cutting out, not necessarily the piece of wood or whatever you're cutting it from, but the size of the feature when it's all cut out. And it's good to overestimate this just a little bit. So I know for my part, it's about 3 inches wide and 5 inches tall. So I just changed those, and like I said, everything else on here should be fine, so we're going to select OK. And now it opens up a little drawing template that's 3 by 5 inches. Next up, we need to get our file into here. So same thing, kind of in SolidWorks, we're going to select File, and then go down to Import. You can see right here, you can also do this by selecting Control-I. So I'll click on that, and then I'm going to navigate back through this into the DXF file I saved off. So you can see it's F-35 DXF. I'm going to select that one and import it. This is really important to look at. This is just kind of a conversion ratio for the units. Sometimes it'll go to stuff like automatic. We just want this on English. If that's what you created your part in, which it should be, 1 unit, 1 inch, that's exactly what we want it to be, and scaling should be 1:1. So that looks perfect to me. And this is just telling you that, hey, we don't have that font. This is because it puts on that little SolidWorks for educational use only thing, and it's saying whatever font SolidWorks wants it to be in, Corel Draw doesn't have. That's fine, because we're going to delete it anyways, so we can select OK. And you can see I have this little upside down L shape that showed up. That's going to be, wherever you click, that's going to be the top left of your part. So I'm going to select there, and you can see that actually popped on there pretty well. But you can see we have this SolidWorks educational use only. If you click on those text boxes and then click delete, that gets rid of them. And then if you want to move this down, mine's not in a super bad position, but I would like to see it down just a little bit more. You can click and drag to highlight it like I just did, then grab the center little X there, and you can just drag it manually. So that looks pretty darn good to me. The next thing is I'm going to click on one of these lines, and LBF1 is really, really slow, so sometimes you gotta let it load. And then I'm going to go over to the Properties tab all the way on the right. Maybe, yep, okay, cool. So this right now, the line is hairline. That's what we want all of these to be, because that's the only thing that the laser is going to recognize as cutting. They should automatically import as hairline, but I like to, again, click and drag to select all of them and then double check that, okay, yes, they are all set as hairline. So once you have this, you're good to go, and we're going to send this to the laser job manager. So it's just like printing something if we were to go print this off on paper. You can do Control P or click the File button and then the print icon down near the bottom. The only thing is we have to make sure the destination is the Epilogue Engraver WinX64, and it should default to that, especially on this computer. But if it doesn't, you can click the drop down and select that device. Everything else here looks fine to me. Like I said, most of these defaults are pretty good, so we can just select print. And it's going to seem like nothing happened, and that's because we need to now open up the Epilogue Manager. It's this little E. It's also available on the desktop, or like I said, if you can't find it in either of those places, you can use the Windows search. I'm just going to open it this way. This tells us all about our laser system. We're running a 30-watt laser, and that's going to come in handy in just a little bit. We want to go to the Jobs tab, and if we did everything right, you should see the newest job is the file you just saved off. If you click on it so it turns that blue color, and then click on the pencil or the Edit button, this is where we're going to set all of the settings. So now I'm over by the laser, and what I'm looking for is the laser manual. It usually is sitting on top of the table right behind the laser. It should be open to this page. This is what we're looking for. If it's not on that table, it's probably underneath in the cabinets. Now that we have our reference, we can use it to help us match some of these settings up. So the first thing that I like to look at is that the autofocus is on. This just helps the laser find the part that it's going to be cutting through. The page width and page height don't really matter. They should just be set to 2412 because that's the size of the bed we're using. Here is probably the most important settings to change are up in this little table here. Raster engraving won't be done from SolidWorks, so you don't have to worry about that. What we're looking for is vector cutting, and you can see we're looking for a speed percentage, a power percentage, and a frequency number. That's why we grabbed the reference. So like I said before, we're running a 30-watt laser, so up across the top here, I'm going to be looking for the 30-watt laser. Down across the left, you can see all of the different materials that we can cut on this machine, and I know that I'm cutting 1/8 inch wood, so I'm going to follow 1/8 inch wood over and 30 watt down, and I can see these settings are telling me that I need to be at 25% for speed and 100% for power. Then over to the left, this column doesn't match to any specific wattage, it's just generic numbers for that material. So it would be 500 frequency. Now that I have those numbers, I'm going to go ahead and type them in. So speed was 25%, power was 100%, and frequency was 500. Now that those are set, there's one more very important thing we have to do, and that's over in the Preview tab right here. So I'll click into the Preview tab, and you can see right now my silhouette is showing up right in the center of this 12 by 24 laser bed. Based on the material that I'm cutting out of, I know that I want this to be in this corner. If I just click and drag this, that's not going to work. I need to click the little pencil button down in the corner here again. And now you can see my mouse is making a little grabby hand, so I can pull that up and over into that corner. And if you put this all the way in the corner, it's going to cut all the way to the edge of your material. So I like to pull it down just a little bit like that. So once that looks good, I can click Save. And I also want to go back into this one last time through the Edit button and make sure that everything updated the way I wanted it to. So I can see these numbers are still the same, everything here is still the same, and on my preview, it's still in the correct placement. So everything looks good to me. So if it's the beginning of a build night, the laser may not be set up yet, so there's a couple of things that you'll need to do to get it ready to actually run. The first thing is we want to make sure that we're getting rid of all the smoke in a safe manner so it doesn't fill up our hangar. And you can see this gray and white piece on the floor here. That needs to get propped up into the window. It's kind of heavy, so if you need an adult to help you, I'd suggest doing that. Once that's in the window, the next thing we need to do is place this red component up on the shelf. Once again, it's kind of heavy and pretty awkward, so if you need an adult to help you, no problem. Once everything in the window is set up, it should look like this, and now we're ready to actually turn the fan and the laser on. There's two switches down on the table here. I'm going to flip them both on, and you can hear the fan kick in. If you don't hear it kick in, that's probably because the air for the building isn't on, and you can again ask an adult to help you with that. You can also hear the laser made a beep as it's booting up. And when it shows this job with an empty screen, that means it's ready to start cutting. So we're going to send our piece over, and then I can show you how to get it ready to actually cut. Now we can actually send this to the laser by clicking the print button in the upper right-hand corner. So I just sent my piece over, and I can see now that it says Job 1 F35. That's the part I'm looking for, so that's good. The next part, and this is really important, is to actually put the material that you're cutting into the laser, because if you start running it and it tries to autofocus when there's nothing there, it could damage the machine. So let's find a piece of material to drop in here. So I've got this piece of 1/8" wood, and I'm using one that's already been cut out of. So when I was centering my piece on the part in the job manager, I was really careful to know exactly where I was placing my part so I wouldn't go into any of these holes that have already been cut out of. I'm going to open this up and then slide the piece flat into the bed and then push it up against the metal on the top and the left side and make sure that it's tight. Sometimes one side of the wood will sit flatter than the other, but I'm liking the way this one looks, so I'm going to close it up and get ready to run it. When you have your job and everything ready, you can just hit the green go button. Sometimes if it's the first cut of the night, the laser won't start cutting right away, so it's best to watch it. When you see it start cutting, hit the gray reset button, and then you can click go again. So that's what I'm going to have to do because this is the first cut of the day. There I'm clicking go. You can see it's auto-focusing. And it's trying to cut, and it just started there. So I click stop and reset. Now I'm going to click go again, and it should start cutting right away once it's done focusing. Now I'm just watching to make sure it looks like it's actually going through and nothing's catching on fire. If you look directly at where the laser hits the material, sometimes it can get a little bright, so a pair of sunglasses never hurt anybody. Alright, so it beeped and it's done, which tells me right there. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to see if this actually popped all the way through like I wanted, and it did. If it doesn't right away, you can center it back up and run the same job again, but that did exactly what I wanted to, so now we're all done. If somebody else is going to be using the laser after you, you can leave the fan and everything running. Otherwise, take it back, out and put it where you found it.